Hello guys and welcome to my channel. Today with another budget deck profile of I would say a little bit of a different kind this time. First of all, the card that for budget players is pretty important in a sense of like you don't really want to see it in your deck, and that is World Legacy in Succession. I really get confused with the OCG names on this game from time to time, but I have included in my side deck options that you could play instead of this card. The card is obviously kind of the best option for this kind of deck, but I feel like there's cards that can make up for the fact if you can't afford this card. So just that saying it first, the rest of the cards are fairly cheap. I think the most expensive card in the deck is probably Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe stuff like Topologic Bomber, but that card got so many reprints, so I think the prices of the cards should be fairly cheap. Starting out with 1D Grade Buster, a card that I wasn't sure if I should run it, but first of all, the removal effect is kind of neat, and I really like the card in the deck, being able to banish stuff, getting some effects off, and with some effects, I mean mainly Balance a Lord if you already got to get to your tuner, like if you are fine with the Synchro Monster, because the main win condition of this deck is creating that little soft lock that Cyberse can do with their Ritual and the Synchro Monster. I thought about including the Fusion Monster possibly, but in the end, I mean, Cyberse Clock Dragon is nice for OTKs, but the problem that he requires you to have Clock Wyvern, and if you can't afford Signet Mining, which this deck does not include, so woo happy days, obviously, since Signet Mining did not get a reprint yet, didn't feel like wanting to include Cyberse Clock Dragon because the chances of you actually getting into a card without playing like triple Signet Backdoor and some weird shenanigans, and then it's still a Wind Monster, which I don't know. I mean, Silent Backdoor search it regardless of, but the other card where it's like where you have to go into your Code Talkers, for example, and then you have to get into X Code Talkers, so in the end it doesn't make much sense to play it. It is on normal summon a Link 2, so it's not too bad. If you want to play one of them for the Cyberse gadget, then that is fair play, but I felt like till Silent Mining got a reprint, it's definitely not worth building a deck that works around the Cyberse Clock Dragon that much, and I feel like the Synchro and the Ritual Monster are, due to the more effective support cards that actually search out the cards that you need, way better. It's a better option in my opinion. Next up, I ran one Destroyer, the only non-Cyberse card in this deck profile if I'm not mistaken, because it helps you. You can use it for the Ritual Summon. That's why I include D-Grade Buster as well. Having 2 level 7 monsters in the deck can be helpful, since you want to have a lot of high level monsters technically to be able to Ritual Summon without using mainly all of your resources basically. Other than that, I feel like getting that card to the grave with the Ritual Summon, with Foolish Burial, or even summoning from your hand, being able to go into your Cyberse Quantum Dragon as well, then I think this card works really well in the deck. Could play it at 2, but I felt like it was fair enough. To the small Salamangreat engine that I actually run in the deck, it's not much because I've tried it out a little bit different. There might be a Salamangreat deck profile actually coming up where it focuses more on the normal Salamangreat playstyle mixed in with some Cyberse rather than hand traps, because I feel like playing the game is sometimes more fun than actually spamming hand traps, because every deck can do that the same way, but actually having a deck that utilizes a certain playstyle is kind of neater in that kind of way. But Jack Jaguar is, you can summon the card somewhat easily with Bailings. Other than that, I think the more important one is actually Salamangreat Fowl, because Bailings only requires you to have 1 level 4 or lower Cyberse monster, which is mainly nearly every monster in your deck. So I feel like getting that card out is pretty neat, and since it doesn't have to be a main deck monster, but any Salamangreat monster, if it's normal special summon, you can easily get Foul out of your hand. Plus this level 4 monster, so it helps you actually with for example the Ritual Summon. So I really like this card. You can cut down 1 if you want to, but I felt like since you easily get this card off your hand, and you try to run a lot of cards at 2 or at 1 in this deck, so you get more names in, because the effects are once per turn, and you try to like get more of a board presence. So I felt like this card was kind of neat in that sense. Lady Debugger, a card that works pretty well. Is one of the cards where you need to normal summon it. You have actually plenty cards that you could normal summon, but in the end, if you don't draw them all in one starting hand, it usually works out. With Lady Debug, being able to search stuff like Gazelle, technically, being able to search stuff like Backup Secretary, and so on. There's a lot of things you can search that extend your combos, and being able to add another card to your hand gets you going a little bit, can be quite neat. Not saying you have to necessarily run it. I feel like these days I'm always like, do you want to get your normal summon out of this? You can special summon it still with stuff like the widget kit. And if I'm not mistaken, Cyberse Witch does not negate the effect of the monster you special summon. So even if you use this card for stuff like the ritual summon and then special summon it out of Cyberse Witch, that still works and you can still get the search. So I really like the card in the deck. Balancer Lord, a card that I think is very strong. You could run it at 2, but I feel like at 3, why would you not run it at 3? It actually gives you another normal summon. And if you get this card into your graveyard, you have easy access to the Cyberse Synchron because you can easily banish the card with Cyberse Wicked, or you can then use any other monster as well. So I feel like the card has its place. One Cyberse Gadget over the Clock Wyvern, because technically the ceiling of this card is higher. The other card creates a normal summon, a link to a normal summon. This card creates somewhat of a link to, not instantly, but if you use it, since you can link it away easy into stuff like Bailings, it is basically always a link to, but you run a lot of low level monsters actually for that card to work out, especially with the microcoder. You probably will have some kind of target for this card in the deck, so making a link 3 with the one card basically, I feel like is kind of strong, but not strong enough in my opinion to run a 2 or 3, because then it gets kind of bricky, and with this deck you really don't want to brick. One Salamangreat Gazelle. I really like Gazelle in this deck. You can dump stuff like Spinny, you can dump stuff like Jaguar, so basically extend your combo. If you already have enough combo extenders, or by any chance you drew both cards with Gazelle as well, then you can even send circles, so you have a spell card in your graveyard, which works pretty well with the deck as well, because for stuff like the Cyberse Witch, you need a spell card in your graveyard, so that is not totally horrible as well. Obviously, don't run the traps here, because you see there is no Sunlight Wolf or anything else, so that is mainly just for extending your place, which works mainly all the time, even if you just go into a Veilings and then just use Bailings for some other kind of, you can still, I mean, you don't lose any resources if you go into Bailings and then go into like a link to, then you can still summon Gazelle, so I feel like that is pretty good in my opinion. Double Widget Kit, another card you can normal summon, then use special summon effects, stuff like Flame Buffalo you can then still use. You can bring out other cards to the board like Balancer Lord and use the effect. You can special summon Lady Debugger, helps you unbrick your hand in a sense if you have resources in your hand that you couldn't special summon. Flame Buffalo, a nice card to normal summon as well, because you will probably have a Cyberse monster in your hand. You'll probably possibly even have a Cyberse monster that you don't need in your hand, or that has some kind of graveyard effect. So I feel like this card is pretty neat in my opinion, being able to draw then 2 cards, which is pretty strong, helps you get resources because you don't lose the card. It's basically just like a blue boy for Cyberse, so I really like it in that kind of sense. Backup Secretary, well, I think it's pretty nice because all you have to do is control Cyberse monster, you can special summon it. Sadly only once per turn, so that is why the card is only a 2. Could play it at 1, but I feel like level 3 is kind of neat. This whole deck feels a lot like a rank 4, rank 3 engine. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a deck like that as well, that's focusing maybe more on going second with like some Xyz stuff or Synchro stuff. Well, I wanted to try as well, because Cyberse, I really love Cyberse type, and they have so much going on for them actually, and there's probably so many combos that would be kind of strong, which I'm still working on it, but I'll probably come back with more, so subscribe for that if you're really interested in this. Double Spinny, because well, all you have to do is control a Salamangreat monster, and obviously you have Bailings, so that shouldn't be too hard. Sea Archiver works in the graveyard, works from your hand. Another extender. Cyberse Converter, another extender. Normal summon effect doesn't really do anything, so that's that. Catch Eve L2 it's a card. I like it because you can easily use it. All you have to do is target level 3 or higher monster you control. Yeah, I have to reduce its level. Problem is, you have a lot of low level monsters as well, but level 3 or higher, you see your deck should be able to bring that out. So you could play the card 2 if you want to as well, but reducing the level is kind of annoying me a little bit, because then it's a little bit annoying for the Silent Ritual, but that's all about it. Link Infraflyer, a card that I think is pretty neat in the deck. You could play it more, but I feel like it's totally fine. Same thing, just puts bodies on board. Microcoder is a different card that I like because it gives you advantage. You can use it from your hand, so you don't have to use any summon for it. You can go into Code Talker. Technically, it is better if you use it for stuff like Trans Code Talker in a sense, because Code Talker usually doesn't help you much in this kind of deck at the moment. but you can cut the card completely if you want to and just play other names. But I like that you can search a card. Stuff like Signet Fusion can be neat, because with Signet Fusion you can actually go into Salamander, Violent, and Chimera for an OTK if you go in second, or if you survive the first turn. So you like being able to search Signet Fusion with it. Other than that, you can search Signet Backdoor. Usually in Cyberse decks I don't run this card because giving up one resource to get another one felt always a little bit clunky in my opinion. But I think since you can add it to your hand, it's kind of good. What you could play if you don't want to run Signet Backdoor is Signet Conflict if you want to play this deck and set up some kind of negate. If you can't do any other place and you want to end on stuff like a Code Talker possibly, then Signet Conflict is a card that you could play instead. But I like that you have Signet Backdoor because it adds another spell card to your deck, and you want to play at least around like 10 spell cards that you can actually use, so your whole Cyberse witch combo still goes off. One Cyber Synchron. With the Math Mechs, I will definitely update this deck profile, so stay tuned for this as well if you are interested in an update, because they will add a whole new level of play for the whole Cyberse kind of decks, because they have new tuners that you can even search with the Wicked and so on, because it doesn't say Cyber Synchron, just a Cyber tuner monster, which at the moment this is the only one you really want to play. But other than that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. One Dot Scraper works with stuff like Foolish Burial, with Gold Sarcophagus, and in general technically with the banishing effect of stuff like Degrade Buster as well. But yeah, you know, you could play 1-for-1 as well if you want to, but I feel like giving up too many resources for dropping cards from your hand. You still run a lot of monsters, so 1-for-1 wouldn't be the worst of all cards to run in the deck, but if it gets ashed, then you kind of screwed a little bit because you lost a lot of resources. Cyberse Magician, basically getting that soft lock going on where the opponent can't target anything anymore and things. Plus, if the card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add one Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand, which is pretty nice. Any Cyberse monster. There's not instant win ones yet, but yeah, there's still a lot that you can do. One Signet Fusion helps you go into Diplex or Chimera if you really need to, and helps you OTK with the Salamander Violet Chimera. It's searchable with Clock Sparta if you ever want to, and if you're really in dire need of OTKing or doing whatever kind of thing, then Signet Fusion definitely works out. Gold Sarcophagus basically technically could banish Balance a lot to get a card out of your hand. Most of the time you want to use it for Dot Scraper though, just adding an extra monster on board while getting a spell cut into the graveyard, not too bad. Same goes for Foolish Burial. Could use it for the Strudo, mainly going to use it for Dot Scraper or Sea Archiver though. Monster Reborn, pretty standard card in the deck. You have a lot of monsters that you want to reborn, even Link 2s and stuff like that is still kind of helpful. One-time passcode, I really like the card in the deck. Gets you level 4 token, which is pretty strong. Sadly once per turn, so only running at 2. World Legacy Inheritor, or Succession, how it actually is called in the TCG. Expensive card, sadly, because it's kind of meta relevant and never really got, I don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it got another reprint in the meantime and I'm totally wrong, but I feel like this card is still somewhat expensive. So if you don't want to play it, play 1-for-1, play Reasoning, play stuff like Monster Reborn, because technically you don't really care what you reborn, plus some monsters would even profit off of the banishing effect. So yeah, I mean, it's one so far. I don't know where they went with this whole banishing gimmick with Cyberse. I thought there was coming more at one point, but in the end it stayed kind of with Balance a lot and Dot Scraper, which kind of disappointed me. But if there's ever coming more, then that might be a card you want to look into as well. Signet Ritual, technically searchable with Microcoder. Not sure if you care, not sure if you care. But if this kind of field was used in material, also a Microcoder thing, you can add one level support, a Cyberse monster instead. Also a good card, so that's why I kind of want to run it as well. Totally forgot about that for a second. Signet Backdoor card that's searchable. Gets you access to certain cards. It's getting a little bit better if you play stuff like the Cyberse Clock Giant. You kind of want to get into your Clock Wyvern. Other than that, can help you utilizing Balancer Lord's effect or protecting a monster. Yeah, let's wait if there's ever better Signet cards coming out that you actually want to use it more. And one Salamander Cycle technically could protect a Salamander Link monster, but that's completely irrelevant. Searches your stuff while getting a card to the graveyard, a spell card, which in this kind of sense is pretty neat. Hope this card doesn't get banned. I'll obviously update the deck if anything happens to Salamander, other than the trap cards being maybe banned or limited or whatever it is. Salamander, Violet Chimera, you talked about it. Pretty easy to OTK since you're running a Link focus deck, since you're running a few Salamander cards. and you actually can use, with Silent Fusion, can technically use materials from your graveyard as well. So if you have Balings in your graveyard, then you can still start that one. Diplex Chimera gets you stuff back to your hand. If you actually have cards in your graveyard that you haven't used because you sent them to the graveyard, possibly with Silent Ritual, then you can still get them back and use them again. And yeah, since it's all once per turn effect, it's not super good that you can recycle stuff, but in the end gets you technically a spell card to the graveyard that you don't really want to banish because you can retrieve it with Diplex Chimera, so it's a little bit, well, I don't know, it's not as good. You could technically play Instant Fusion, this kind of stuff as well in the deck. Yeah, I decided not to, but a thing that you could be doing. Cyberse Quantum Dragon helps you get up, setting up the thing, the soft lock, but the effect other than that is pretty going second, so going first is actually not as great. Wish it would be a little bit better. I don't want Cyberse Integrator because you actually can use or summon the card more often than you think. Being able to draw a card as well, not too bad. I like the card in general. Don't have to play it if you don't want to. There's obviously a lot of options with this deck. The extra deck space is super tight, so you got to watch out with that one. Maybe play like an Xyz card as well if you want to really pop off with Dark Fluid, for example, which you could. It's going to be kind of hard, but that's also your OTK card in a sense. I mean, Link 5, don't have to play it. I like it in the deck because it kind of belongs, it's kind of the boss monster of the deck, and I do like that it exists, but it's kind of hard sometimes to actually utilize the effect too much because you're giving up quite a lot for it. Topologic Bomber, also kind of a boss monster, since also Cyberse works pretty well. Gives you an option for the deck if your opponent shuts you down too much, and all you can actually do is get the amount of effect monsters to the field that you need for this card. Other than that, yeah, Transcode Talker revives the card from the graveyard, pretty strong. Don't have that, you don't have any Link 3s actually besides it, so you mainly will be reviving a Link 2. Stuff like Honeybot possibly that protects you a little bit more as well. Plus the card makes the monster can't be targeted if it's co-linked, which it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So I think in general the card is quite neat in the deck. Honeybot could run it at 2 to get like a miniature soft link thing going on if you want to. Don't have to, because you don't have to run Clock Sparta. I just like the card in the deck, but if you want to, you can run double Honeybot if you want. Said that a lot. Code Talker, a card that helps you go into microcoder if you lock yourself out of Link 3s with the Link Disciple and Devotee. So there's that. Clock Sparta is a last resort kind of card, possibly for the following turn to get Silent Fusion out, special summon more monsters and stuff, but can't summon anything for the rest of the turn except fusion monsters, so you have to kind of look out what you actually do with this effect. Cyberse Witch, I like the card, helps you really get a monster out of your graveyard as well without negating the effect. That's crazy, honestly. Helps you doing a lot of things. Cyberse Wicked, like the card. I mean, protects you more as part of the neat little soft lock, because then nothing can be destroyed by battle or card effect, because nobody can attack nothing anymore. And it's really crazy if your opponent doesn't have non-targeting whatever removal, then that can be quite annoying for your opponent, but many they'll somehow get rid of it. Salamangreat Veilings, already explained why I run this card in the deck, and Link Disciple and Devotee, getting you being able to shuffle stuff like Cyberse Magician or Silent Ritual back to the deck, and drawing a card can be quite nice, but if you get shut down with their combo at the start, can be quite annoying. You don't run Called by the Grave because this deck is kind of tight, and I think if you put in more stuff like Called by the Grave and whatever, you kind of lose a little bit of value, but you can put it in if you feel like the deck doesn't work without it, then do you put it in. You have a lot of Ash Bait cards in the deck though, so that's kind of nice. Other than that, yeah, you have to do it for yourself. Cards that you could be playing that decide not to, the new Math Mix, I'll look into that as well. Can be super neat since the effects work out pretty well as well. Stuff like Firewall Guardian, could play it, didn't really feel it. Salamangreat Foxtail already felt like I had enough normal summon monster, plus you don't run that many Salamangreat cards, so I felt like, you know, getting much out of it. Cross Debug, but I didn't want to really lose any of my Link monsters by random, so I felt like Cross Debug was not really what I wanted. Could go for Mirage Stalio because you'll easily get it off since you only need 2 level 3 monsters, but then you're locked into, you can only use Fire Monsters effect for the rest of the turn, which can be problematic. If you put it down at the end, could be neat, but I felt like not that much. Trispania, obviously, a very good card if you don't want to run Bomber Dragon, or if you want to even side deck the Trispania. In my opinion, that card is neat. Could play Tri-Gay Wizards, hitting up a negate. not always working out that much because you need a lot of monsters, and I think this card is better for like complete spam decks, which this is not really one of them. And other than that, yeah, could run a Sanctuary to deck thin, but since you don't really want to use the effect of the Sanctuary, kind of unnecessary. But I guess you know what I mean. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile. I was going quite in depth about it. I really like Cyberse. You probably have figured this out by now. Subscribe for more Cyberse content as well as budget deck content. Yay. Hope you're having a good day.